People often say cancer is the sign of emotion, but very few truly understand that behind that softness are long seasons of silence, endurance, and carrying everything alone. Lately, if you are a Cancer, life may have felt like it was being held right in the middle. Not exactly wrong, but no longer right either. Everything slowed down, emotions grew heavier, and at some point, you may have realized you were no longer sure what you were even waiting for. What's interesting is this. When a cycle is truly coming to an end, it rarely announces itself loudly. It arrives quietly, through very small signs. A tiredness that doesn't go away. A silent release. A moment when you suddenly understand you can't keep living the same way anymore. This video is for Cancer, standing right in that moment. The moment when old energy begins to pull back, and a new rhythm of life slowly starts to open. And to understand why that feeling of being stuck appeared in the first place, we need to return to the point where something just finished closing its door. After the old layers of energy begin to fall away, Cancer does not step straight into joy. What comes first is a very unfamiliar stillness, not emptiness, but something like a lake, just after the ripples disappear. Inside that quiet space, you begin to feel yourself more clearly. The heartbeat slows, the breath goes deeper, and then something very subtle appears. Not loud, not dramatic, but strong enough for you to sense it all around you. That attention does not come through words or obvious actions. It comes through energy. Someone, somewhere, is being touched by you very deeply. What's striking is that Cancer isn't trying to attract anything. You're not trying to be appealing. You're not proving your worth. You're not stepping into the spotlight to be seen. It's the calm that comes after upheaval, the emotional depth shaped by years of endurance, the warmth that doesn't need to announce itself. That's what makes it hard for someone to turn away. When a person truly matures, their energy loses its sharp edges. It becomes soft, but steady. And it's that steadiness that makes others feel safe when they think of you. The one holding you in their mind may not say anything out loud. They may still be wrestling with their own inner world, but you'll feel it through very small signs. A glance that lingers longer than usual, a message that arrives late, but carries real feeling. A silence with depth, not cold, but thoughtful. This isn't passing attention. This is the kind of connection that forms when two inner worlds touch. No rush, no noise, but growing clearer with time. Cancer has grown used to loving quietly and waiting through sacrifice. But this phase is different. This time, you're not standing in a place of lack. You've created your own sense of fullness. And because of that, the connection forming now doesn't carry dependency. It comes from resonance, from two, people who have lived enough to understand that genuine emotion cannot be forced. When two energies meet in a mature state, destiny doesn't feel dramatic. It feels familiar in a way that's hard to explain, as if you've known each other for a very long time. This attraction also carries an important healing message for Cancer, that you don't have to hurt yourself to be loved, that gentleness is not weakness, that emotional depth is not a burden. When someone can't stop thinking about you simply because of who you truly are, that's when you realize those long years of self-doubt have done their work. You no longer have to shrink to fit into someone else's world. Still, Cancer senses a very human hesitation within. Not fear, but awareness. The awareness of someone who has been hurt before. You observe more. You listen more. You don't rush to label this feeling. And that, right there, is the sign you've stepped into a new level of maturity. You allow things to unfold, naturally, without forcing timing, without gripping the outcome. When a destined connection appears right as an old cycle closes, it doesn't arrive to disrupt. It arrives to reflect the quiet changes that have taken place inside you, to reflect a version of Cancer who knows how to hold boundaries, who honors their own worth, who listens to intuition without needing to explain it to anyone. And within that gentle current, something slowly takes shape. Not a promise, not a big decision, but a slow movement, where both sides need time to realign their own worlds before stepping closer. When the energy is ready, everything finds its way forward. Cancer doesn't need to push. You only need to keep living in your own rhythm, because right now, That calm presence is opening a different door, a space where worry is gradually replaced by trust, and the unspoken finally finds room to be expressed in its own quiet way. After sensing that quiet attention, Cancer begins to face a layer of emotion that feels both familiar and new at the same time. The worry doesn't arrive suddenly. It comes softly, like a thin mist settling over your thoughts when you're alone. You wonder if you're reading the signs correctly. You wonder if this time will be different from the last. You remember very clearly what it felt like to trust, to open your heart, and then have to pull back just to protect yourself. Those memories don't hurt anymore, but they leave marks deep enough to slow you down, to make you more careful, and to listen to yourself more closely. This hesitation isn't weakness. It's the expression of someone who has learned how to love without losing themselves. You no longer rush toward emotion out of fear that you might miss your chance. You allow time to do its work. You let yourself fully notice the small signals in your body and your mind, a heartbeat that slows, a breath that goes deeper than usual, a morning where you wake up with a calm you can't quite explain. That's your inner world telling you that you've changed. In moments like this, you may not realize it, but there's a quiet support present around you. Not loud, not dramatic, not asking you to believe blindly. It shows up in small ways. You meet the right person at the right time without planning it. A casual sentence lands exactly on the thought you were holding inside. A delay that once felt frustrating turns out to be protection, steering you away from a choice that wasn't right for you. Looking back, you begin to see that you were guided along a path with fewer collisions, even when you thought you were lost. Cancer has grown used to carrying everything alone, enduring quietly, understanding without explanation, healing without witnesses. But this phase brings a different awareness, that you don't need to struggle to prove your worth, that your presence alone already has value. What you thought was slipping away was actually being held in another form, somehow stronger, more stable, more aligned with who you are now. In your work, in personal decisions, even in relationships that once felt fragile, the balance is shifting, slowly but firmly. You may not see clear results yet, but the feeling of being backed into a corner is gone. In its place is more space, space to stand taller, to see more clearly what you want and what you no longer need to carry. You don't have to fight to win. You just have to stay with yourself until the end. The most important gift of this period is a renewed trust in yourself. Not blind confidence, but trust built on experience, on scars that have healed, on quiet moments of getting back up when no one was watching. When you stop trying to prove yourself, you begin to attract things that don't require constant explanation. When you stand steady in your stillness, the right connections find their way to you. There may still be restless nights, moments of reflection when everything is quiet. But instead of worrying, you're learning to sit with the feeling. You don't push it away. You let it pass, like a small wave that touches the shore and then recedes. And in that permission, you realize you're being protected in a way that fits you, your rhythm, your inner world. This current doesn't ask you to hurry. It invites you to walk slower, steadier, with the quiet trust that what belongs to you won't miss you. When Cancer learns how to stand still without fear, the space around you begins to change. What once caused anxiety slowly fades back, making room for a new sense of safety. And within that safety, another direction begins to open. A place where you no longer need armor, where the heart is allowed to soften, and where the choices ahead will be made from calm clarity, not from fear. The emotions forming around Cancer right now carry a very different quality from anything you've experienced before. They don't erupt suddenly. They don't send your heart racing out of control. Instead, there's a strangely familiar feeling, like walking into a house you haven't visited in a long time and realizing everything is still right where it belongs. No explanation needed. No long conversations required. Just being present is enough. This isn't the kind of emotion that tests your patience. It arrives to remind you that real connection always carries a deep sense of safety. Cancer begins to understand that this bond isn't built from lack or from fear of being alone. It comes from two people who have lived enough life to recognize the value of stability. There's something very family-like in this energy, a warmth that doesn't need to be displayed, a feeling of being able to rest without staying alert. You don't have to hide your most vulnerable places. You don't have to become stronger to be accepted. If nurtured with care, this kind of connection can go very far. Still, Cancer can feel a slower rhythm that needs to be respected. The other person isn't unwilling to come closer. In fact, they sense the depth of this connection just as clearly as you do. But inside their inner world, there are pieces still being rearranged, unfinished responsibilities, personal confusion not yet resolved, questions about themselves that need honest answers and time. This isn't rejection. It's the caution of someone who doesn't want to bring unfinished healing into something that could become very real. Cancer now stands before a subtle lesson. You've been used to loving by giving way, by waiting, by placing other people's feelings ahead of your own. But this energy doesn't ask that of you. There's no signal that you need to sacrifice yourself to keep this connection alive. Slowing down is exactly how both of you protect what's forming. When you don't force the pace, you give emotion room to mature. When you don't dismiss your own needs, you create the foundation for something far healthier. True harmony doesn't come from two people merging while both are still unsteady. It arrives when each person stands firmly in their own world and chooses to step closer from a place of fullness. Cancer is learning to recognize the boundaries of love. You understand now that lasting connection isn't built on unconditional waiting, but on respecting each other's timing. You don't need to rush anything to prove that this has value. In that quiet space, Cancer also becomes clearer about what you truly need. Not rushed promises, not reassurance spoken too early, but the feeling of being chosen with awareness, of standing beside someone who is working on themselves, not to hold you back, but to be worthy of walking with you. That creates a different kind of peace, deeper, more stable than anything you've known before. When you allow things to unfold at the right pace, you begin to see that this connection doesn't lose strength. It settles. It condenses. It becomes clearer with time. Cancer doesn't need to decide anything right now. Just keep living honestly with your feelings. Keep your heart open while keeping your feet firmly on the ground. In that calm presence, you'll realize that the love most capable of going the distance often begins with a step that's very slow, very steady, and quiet enough to hear your own inner voice as the path ahead gradually reveals itself. And within that stillness, something very clear begins to take shape inside Cancer. Not through loud moments, but through a rare sense of steadiness you haven't felt in a long time. Life no longer revolves around who is coming or who is leaving. The focus slowly shifts back to you, to how you want to live, how you want to love, how you want to build the years ahead. This change doesn't arrive in a dramatic burst. It happens slowly but deeply, like roots quietly anchoring themselves into the ground after a long storm. Cancer begins to see life through a different lens, no longer the gaze of someone always ready to sacrifice just to keep the peace. No longer the gaze of someone constantly reacting to whatever happens next. You start asking real questions about your future, about the place you want to call home, about the kind of work that gives your mornings meaning, about the values you're no longer willing to compromise just to stay in a relationship or an environment that feels familiar. These thoughts don't create tension. They bring clarity, like fog lifting, revealing the true shape of things. During this period, a very real shift may take place, a trip that seems accidental, but opens an entirely new perspective. A decision you once avoided now made with surprising calm. Not because you've become reckless, but because old fears no longer hold you in place. You've healed enough to understand that change isn't always loss. Sometimes, it's the only way out of a cycle that has already completed its role in your life. Cancer may also notice that you're drawing more attention now. But unlike before, it doesn't confuse you or push you into quick choices. You no longer need to be chosen to feel valuable. You chose yourself first. And that choice creates a very different kind of magnetism. Calmer, more mature, less noisy, yet impossible to ignore. You observe more than you react. You listen to intuition instead of chasing fleeting emotion. This rebirth doesn't turn you into someone completely new. It brings you closer to who you truly were, before you had to strain to adapt, before you learned to shrink your feelings so others would feel comfortable. You remember what it feels like to live in your own rhythm, slow enough to feel, steady enough to stay grounded, honest enough that nothing needs to be performed. In this new space, Cancer no longer places your entire future into the hands of one relationship or one opportunity. You open your heart without losing direction. You allow good things to approach while still keeping your place firmly rooted. That balance is what allows life to move more smoothly. The right doors begin to open. Choices that once felt frightening become clearer, no longer wrapped in uncertainty. As you change, the world around you changes too, naturally. You don't need to move faster. You don't need to prove that you're ready. That readiness shows itself in small decisions, in choosing truth over convenience, in listening to your emotions instead of ignoring them. And within that flow, you begin to feel a new kind of stability forming, quiet, unannounced, but strong enough to support your next steps as the road ahead slowly opens in a way that belongs only to you. And when you look back on the road you've traveled, Cancer begins to understand that maturity doesn't come from a single moment of victory, but from countless quiet moments of choosing what was right. You've stood in difficult crossroads where there was no applause, no recognition, only you and the feeling that you had to keep going without knowing what you would receive in return. Family, work, relationships, all of them once asked you to carry more than your share, and yet those very paths taught you how to stand firm without leaning on anyone. How to take responsibility for your own emotions instead of blaming circumstance. Now, a very clear shift is taking place. You're no longer living in reaction mode. You begin to choose how you want to show up in this life. Not to control everything, but to stop being pulled by what doesn't belong to you. This sense of self-command doesn't harden you, it softens you, because you no longer need constant defense. You know your limits. You know when to move forward and when to pause. And that awareness creates a quiet authority, mature, grounded. In the material world, what you've been building in silence is starting to take form. It may not look impressive yet to the outside world, but you can feel that the foundation has changed. An opportunity appears, right? When you're clear enough to know whether it truly fits. A new direction opens, asking you to step beyond familiarity, but no longer filling you with panic. You understand now that safety isn't found in standing still. It's found in the ability to adapt without losing who you are. When you step forward, the world responds with deeper, more meaningful options. In love, Cancer realizes something essential. The connection present now does not ask you to become someone else. It doesn't test how much you can endure. It doesn't demand another sacrifice. It arrives with a building energy, slow, steady, as if both of you understand that what truly lasts cannot be built from urgency or fear. You are not pulled off your center. You are invited to stand beside, not behind. This balance isn't accidental. It's the result of everything you've lived through. The times you chose healing over resentment. The times you chose to walk away quietly instead of holding on. The times you placed self-respect above the need to be loved. Life is returning a very personal sense of fairness to you. Not loudly, not dramatically, but enough to let you breathe easier, as if everything is finally settling into its rightful place. Cancer no longer needs to ask whether you're on the right path. You feel agreement from within, a sense of calm when you think about tomorrow, a certainty when your hands rest on your decisions. You're no longer standing at the doorway waiting for someone to open the way. You've stepped inside, carrying everything you've learned, everything you've lost, everything you chose to keep. And that fullness is what makes you ready to build, not just for yourself, but for something larger, more enduring, more meaningful. When love, career, and inner standing return to their rightful places, you don't need to try to shine. The light appears naturally, balanced, fitting. It doesn't blind anyone, but it's bright enough to clearly illuminate the road ahead. And within that light, Cancer keeps moving forward, not to prove anything, but to live fully as the person you've become, calm, steady, and ready to receive what comes from the balance you built with your own hands.